All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to dive into the top 10 songs in Nigeria put together by Turntable Charts. Okay, the only aggregate chart system right now in Nigeria. And we have some activity outside the top 10 this week. Okay, outside the top 10, we have Caesar's Isaka 2, 6 a.m. with Tukutela, Jazz Worth, Liquor Beats, Omale, and Thames moves to a new peak at number 12 on the top 100. All right. Also outside the top 10, we have Bella Shmurda with Holy Jah debuting at number 14. And also, I love the song, Kid Carter's Calculates 2 featuring Young John enters the top 20 for the first time at number 16. Any thoughts on the activity outside the top 10? I know Lost Boy is throwing 100. Who are you throwing 100 for?
It's 300 for Omale.
For everybody, actually.
You're lying, bro. It's Omale, bro.
Of course. Is our fellow Purple Ranger here. Love it. Anyway, man, we'll get into the top 10 this week. At number 10, ladies and gentlemen, we have Gunna's Forever Be Mine featuring Wizkid falls from number 9 to number 10 in its fourth week on the chart after peaking at number 2. So that's this week's number 10. Gunna featuring Wizkid, Forever Be Mine. At number 9, we have Benson and Fola with Very Soon, slips from number 8 to number 9. Moving up to number 8, ladies and gentlemen, we have Famous Pluto's Ewo, Zeri DL, and Shali Poppy backtracks from number 7 to number 8. And moving up to number 7, also backtracking from one spot, we have Olamide's Star-Studded 99 featuring Ashake, Daycom, Shay Vibes, and Young John sitting at number 7 this week. Moving up to number 6, ladies and gentlemen, we have Ira Star with Hot Body retreating from number 4 to number 6. The song continues to lead the official radio chart 7 weeks at number 1 with 80.6 million in radio airplay impressions. That's this week's number 6, Hot Body by Ira Star. And at number 5, we have Ashake's former number 1 in Badman Gangster featuring Tia Kola, dips from number 3 to number 5 this week. Going up to number 4, at its peak, we have DJ Tunes, One Condition, with Wizkid and Fola returns to its number 4 peak on this week's chart. And going up to number 3, we have a former number 1 in Love by Burna Boy at number 3 this week after topping the chart for 4 weeks so far since it's showing up on the chart. Now that brings us to number 2 this week, and at number 2, ladies and gentlemen, we have You by Fola, holds at its number 2 peak in its 4th week on the chart after recording 2.72 million on-demand streams, making it number 2 on streaming, and 62.1 million in radio airplay impressions, making it number 4 on radio. The song has increased in activity every week since release. It is now aiming for number 1 bout on next week's official charts following the arrival of the artist's debut album. It faces competition with Cash Flow and Fun, which then brings us to this week's number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Young John's Cash Flow with Wizkid debuts at number 1 this week. Okay, Young John's Cash Flow with Wizkid launches at number 1 on the official top 100 with 3.8 million on-demand streams, making it number 1 on streaming, and 55.3 million in radio reach, making it number 6 on radio. As a result, it becomes Young John's 3rd number 1 single in Nigeria and Wizkid's 5th overall. Cashflow is Young John's first number 1 debut on the official charts. His previous 2 chart toppers never started at the top of the summit, which were Extra Cool in 2022 and 99 earlier this year. Wizkid has scored 4 number 1 singles in a little over a year and all 4 have debuted at the top of the singles chart in Nigeria. The songs are MMS with Ashake, Piece of My Heart with Brent Fayez, Kesed Dance, and now Cash Flow with Young John. Wizkid's only other number 1 entry on the official singles chart is Ginger with Burna Boy, which did not debut at number 1, but was the first ever number 1 single in official chart history for Wizkid. It was the very first number 1 entry on the inaugural issue of the official singles chart in Nigeria in November of 2020. All right, that brings us to this week's top 10. A quick recap on this week's top 10. At number 10, we had Gunna and Wizkid with Forever Be Mine. At number 9, we had Benson and Fola with Very Soon. At number 8, we had Famous Pluto with Awo featuring Zeri DL and Shali Poppy. At number 7, we had 99 by Olamide featuring Ashake, Daycom, Shay Vibes, and Young John. At number 6, we had Ira Star with Hot Body. At number 5, we had Ashake with Bad Man Gangsta. At number 4, we had DJ Tunes, One Condition with Wizkid and Fola returning to his number 4 peak. And at number 3, we had Love by Burna Boy. Number 2, we had You by Fola. And at number 1, Young John featuring Wizkid, Cash Flow.